Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And this is ReDIScover, a conversation where we travel through everything that makes up the essence of who we are and how to live authentically and imaginatively.
Here, we invite you to join us as we explore and discuss a little bit of, well, everything.
From Disney to cultivating your most authentic life to deepening your relationships and talking about the real stuff.
We hope you'll find this a space that speaks to you, encourages you, and brings a little bit of magic into your day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to this week's episode of ReDIScover. Happy December. It is a brand new month, and most of you know I am currently in Italy at this exact moment, and we thought it would be really fun to take this month and give a little love to these countries that we love and that I'm actually finally experiencing for the first time. So this month is going to kind of be a fun back and forth from all of the perceptions we had about these countries to the actuality. And we have a really fun episode planned for you guys today.
We are living vicariously. We are traipsing around Italy with Jess, and she is living this like golden dream adventure life. And I don't know about all of you, but the Instagram algorithm has smiled upon me because Jess and Steven's stories are the first ones that pop up when I refresh my feed. And I'm like, and poor Steven's probably getting really annoyed of me saying things in all caps. Like, is that a gondola full of books?
It is.
I know. I'm just enjoying like soaking in every moment with you. You guys are so good about helping us to feel like we're there with you. And perhaps at the end of this episode, Jess, you'll tell us where you're going next, which is also very exciting. But for now, we're gonna hang out in Italy for a while. And the cool thing about Jess, you being in Italy and me being here in Orlando is that we have a little counterpart here that we've talked about many times before. But of course, having EPCOT in my backyard and actual Italy in your backyard makes me feel very connected to you while you're so far away. Both Jess and I have grown up with Italian heritage, and being from a part of the country that has a very dense Italian American population, and also growing up coming to EPCOT and experiencing EPCOT's version of Italy. And now that Jess is in actual Italy, we are, that was a poor drum roll. We are rediscovering the legitimate overseas versions of these little pavilions that we experience at EPCOT. We're going to get into some like expectation versus reality, how much the EPCOT pavilion actually emulates what Jess is really seeing and experiencing.
In case you haven't been following along yet, the city that I'm currently residing in for the month is Rome, Italy, and then I have visited Florence and Venice. So prefacing that to say that I have only seen a small sliver of this country that has so many different cities and different experiences in every single one. Every place I've been to has felt like a little country within itself. Like it has its own unique quirks and very different vibes. So the whole intention is to make you feel like you guys are here along with me, like Kristen said, and I'm glad that you feel that way, because I wish I could just bring all of you here, because it is a dream come true. So
I wish I would have fit in your suitcase, but that's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
We are in a way.
We're all there with you, Jess.
I brought the blanket Kristen gave me for Christmas, so it's like she's in Italy with me right now. It's perfect. I'm using it right now as we record this podcast.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I definitely want to get into the different parts of Italy that you've been to, but more specifically, there is one place that you were recently that inspired the EPCOT version of Italy. Of course, Venice is very largely represented in the Italy pavilion at EPCOT. I would say like most of the pavilion seems to be a recreation of Piazza San Marco in Venice. I think we should start there. I think we should start in Epcot because that's something that maybe more of us are familiar with. And then we can kind of see how the real McCoy compares. So when you approach the Italy pavilion at Epcot, of course, each pavilion is situated on the water, but this pavilion sits a little further back because the front of the pavilion sort of has these little bridges like a Venetian canal. And there are gondolas sitting in the water. And then when you walk toward the pavilion, you see which we just learned what the name of it was. You see the St. Mark's, the Campanile, the bell tower, and all of the beautiful like archways all along that building where the shops are, where you can buy the Venetian masks and all the different Italian, leather goods and perfumes and football related merchandise. And then kind of back in the pavilion, there's this big like raised platform.
Yeah, it's kind of like a square, but
sort of like a smaller. It looks like a little stage almost. During holidays, that's where the storyteller La Befana stands, and which is coming up very soon. But then you kind of move back into the pavilion and you have Tutto Italia and Via Napoli and the little Junior Trevi fountain. I assume that's what it is. It looks like a little Trevi fountain. I always assumed it was a little Trevi fountain. Of course, we could be looking these things up, but isn't it funnier when we just don't know?
I've actually never known if that was supposed to be Trevi fountain or not.
We're going to Google. The pavilion is a melting pot of Venetian, Roman, and Florentine architecture and icons. Okay. So
wow,
we were convenient. Right. We were right. Yes. I would say that is very convenient because
that's literally where I went.
Jess has been she's staying in Rome and has traveled to both Florence and Venice. So we do have St. Mark's Campanile and the Doge's Palace.
Yes,
Jess?
I'm going to talk about that.
Okay. And then we also have, the Neptune fountain is reminiscent of the Trevi fountain. And this blogger has chosen to say in Rome, as seen in the Lizzie McGuire movie. I appreciate that anecdote. The columns at the entrance to the pavilion are Venetian as well. One has a winged lion at the top, which apparently is the symbol of Venice and the guardian of Venice. And the other is Saint Theodore, who was some military figure who did some important thing in Venetian history and now is on top of a giant column. It's a small pavilion. There are these little sort of like inlets. And there's this little back courtyard over by the Via Napoli pizza window that's like covered in these beautiful tiles. And then there's a little alleyway over by the Doge's Palace between that and Tutto Italia. And so there's these little moments that are kind of snuck in there.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking to that is absolutely an experience that I've had here. I think in all three of the cities I've been to, but especially Venice, we would go down little alleyways, and there was one alleyway we went down and we heard a violin and a piano playing through the window, which was incredible. Or just the buildings themselves are all these beautiful yellows and oranges and pink colors, which I think is so unique. And all of the buildings are so majestic, and it's just quite incredible. And I would say that, like you said, the Epcot Pavilion is very, very much focused on that St. Mark's Square. When you approach it from what I was perceiving as the back end of it, the tower was on my right side and Doge's Palace was on my left side. And there's a huge body of water out in the front, which was remarkable. And I mean, kind of reminiscent to the way the lagoon is at the World Showcase, but obviously this was much bigger. It's, in a real city, and it was gigantic.
It's not a pavilion.
It's not a pavilion. Shocking. But no, it just, the water stretched out for so long and we could see the sunset out there, and it was really incredible. And it was interesting though, looking back from the water, it looked like Doge's Palace was on the opposite side of where it is in Epcot, which kind of threw me off a little bit in the
You're like,
sense because
wait,
I'm like,
this
because I'm
is an
like in
Epcot?
my head, I've seen it so many times at Epcot, and I'm like, I
Right.
swear it's on the opposite side. But there are a lot of street vendors and a lot of benches. There are some restaurants in the area. Some have, live piano music or lots of outside tables. That's the thing in Italy is everybody sits outside all of the time, and they're always just sitting at tables outdoors at all these restaurants. And I think it's my favorite thing here. Like all I do is eat in Italy. So whenever you get here, all of you get ready to just eat your heart out because the food is better than I've ever had. And yeah, so there's the Doge's Palace right there nearby with that clover type architecture that Kristen was talking about. It literally looks the same. I mean, here's a picture, Kristen, if you want to see it.
Oh my gosh, it is the same. Wow.
Disney truly did an incredible job with that. It's very recognizable, even down to the colors and the structure. It's very impressive. And the actual Doge's Palace is really cool. That's one of the things that we actually did do. We haven't been doing a ton of museums and art exhibits and palaces yet, but that was our first one. And we went inside, and it is like a gigantic courtyard, very, very open. And then there's a lot of statues, and you go inside, and it's genuinely a palace. There's so much gold and artwork on the ceilings and the walls, and it's mind-blowing. If you want to see pictures, you can go on my Instagram highlights from Venice because it's like incredible.
There's a museum in Boston called the Isabella Gardner Museum that I went to a couple months ago, and it's all like Venetian. It's all the same thing. But like the whole museum is like her home, but it's really like a palace. And the same thing, you go into this courtyard and it looks like the Doge's Palace on the outside, but it's inside, and it's like this conservatory, and there's all these plants growing and the sunlight streaming in, and it feels like Venice. And it feels like, to me, it felt like, oh, this feels like Italy at Epcot, because I've not been to actual Italy, but it's interesting how those like moments can be recreated so authentically here.
Yeah. It's when I'm missing Italy and I'm back in the States, maybe I'll have to go there.
Yes. Oh, it's totally worth the trip. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. It's really interesting how Venice inspires so many things worldwide. And it makes sense. Like walking through Venice genuinely feels like a movie set or a facade. We met other people our age, and we did like a little food walking tour, and they said the same thing. And they weren't really Disney people. So I'm like, okay, I'm glad it's not just us, because they literally said, they're like, it kind of feels like a Disney World type deal here. It's just so surreal, which is so funny.
Yeah.
But Venice is really interesting because the entire city is on water. There are no cars. There are no streets. The old town of Venice where we were, it's all by those canals, all by water. So if, we saw firemen on a boat going off.
I saw that. On, I think it was Steven's story. I was like, oh my gosh, that's wild.
Yeah. Or like an ambulance. It's all by boat, which is really interesting. And it was funny because I didn't do a ton of research on Venice before I went, because I really wanted to be surprised. And I'm kind of glad I did, because everything blew my mind. It was really cool. But, and then the other thing you were saying about the Venetian masks, those were everywhere. And also another really big thing there is glass blowing. That's like a main craft in Venice. And there are all these little tiny, like Christmas glass pieces in the windows, or gigantic ones that it costs like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like it's really remarkable. I think one of the main things in Venice is shopping and the vendors getting to showcase their craft. So that was awesome. So, I mean, of course, all of this to say, Disney did a phenomenal job with the amount of space they had and with the areas they chose to focus on. The tower looks very remarkably similar. It's of course much shorter at Walt Disney World than it is in real life, but Doge's Palace, again, smaller than in real life, but still majestic at Epcot. And I'm impressed. Disney does a really good job. And I mean, of course it's Americanized, and of course the actual like Disney World is cleaner. Like I'm just gonna say it straight up. It's a lot cleaner, but there's nothing like being here. For people who have traveled to Disney their whole lives to be able to go to these countries in real life, it's a really cool full circle thing that I hope everybody gets to do at some point in their life. If you're anyone, but especially if you're a Disney fan and you have even the slightest bit of interest in traveling, it's a really cool connection to be able to make.
You're on one side of the street or the other. Like either you've been to Italy and you're coming to Epcot for the first time and going, oh my gosh, this reminds me of home, or this reminds me of this place that we've been. Or you are going to Italy and you've been to Epcot and you're saying, oh my gosh, wow, they did such a good job recreating this thing. I feel like I've been here before. Which is so cool. And I think that when I think about all the places that I want to travel to, a lot of them are places that are represented at Epcot. And maybe that's just been like this subliminal thing my whole life. Your most notable statement thus far has been, when you come to Italy, just eat your heart out. So I think we should devote some time to talking about food, because we love the food in the Italy Pavilion at Epcot. So I think we should delve into the differences. We should talk about authenticity, because it's ReDIScover. And because Italy is such a food-centric culture, like the gastronomy, I mean, nobody doesn't like Italian food. And if you don't, I don't know if we can be friends.
But I don't know if I'm ever going to be satisfied with food again after having
Really?
It's so good. Everywhere you go is so good. You can walk into a little random corner, find this place you just walked by, and you walk out with like phenomenal cuisine, like a piece of pizza that tastes like heaven. It's like, what the heck? And I know that's probably a bit of an exaggeration, because yes, I am floating on a cloud right now, but like it's everything that I've tried has been so good.
So are you saying that the food tastes good because you're in Italy and you're having this like euphoria right now, or does it taste good because it's actually better?
As someone who eats a lot, I would say I would say the food actually does taste better here. Like, I mean, we're going to get into it, but comparing the types of food to the quality of it here, I personally think it's better.
I cannot attest. What I can attest to is the fact that my Italian relatives make or made in my childhood some of the best food I've ever eaten too. And it's one of those things where like Italian food is everything I love about food and food culture, because it's not just, okay, it's lunchtime, I need to put something into my body so I can get through the rest of the day. It's an event. It's an occasion. Like you were describing, everyone just sitting at these tables and talking. The pace is slower. It's like meals can go on for hours because everybody's got something to say and nobody's ever full and there's always more food. And well, wait a minute, there's dessert. And then there's like a plate of cookies after dessert. That's not really dessert. And would you like a cappuccino?
And espresso.
Or both. And it just goes on. And if you pace yourself correctly, and you don't sort of look at it like this, well, I just need to put some food into my body thing. It actually becomes like those are some of my favorite memories. And I am fascinated with Italy for so many reasons. But one of the most poignant is that it is a culture that takes its time to do things. And it slows down and savors life. And even something as simple as breakfast or lunch. It is an occasion and a reason to celebrate and a reason to gather with people you love or make new friends, and sort of like share that commonality of the food or of the cuisine. So I love that about Italy. And I love that when I go to Epcot, I get a sense of that. We can start with Via Napoli, Jess's favorite restaurant at Epcot. When you walk in, you see this, big open floor plan. There's a community table where you can sit with other guests and dine with people you don't know and maybe make a new friend, which is not an American thing to do. We like separation. It's such a departure from that. And then you see these big, beautiful ovens and the kitchen is on stage, so you can see the chefs moving about and cooking and preparing pizzas and pulling them in and out of the ovens. And it just is an experience. You walk into the activity, the action is happening, and you get to just like step right in and be a part of it. Even the little carts around Italy. I think Italy has the most little like kiosks of any of the Epcot pavilions. There's the gelato one, and then there is always a different booth for the different festivals. And there's a little cart where you can get limoncello and a glass of wine. And then there's the actual wine store where you can buy wine to taste or buy it to take home. And so everywhere you go around the entire pavilion, there's an opportunity to eat or drink something.
I mean, we've talked about Via Napoli many times.
Many times.
As if we couldn't talk about it more. It has that Naples style crust pizza. That has been my favorite pizza in Epcot for years and years. So I was really excited because the first place that we tried here in Italy had very, very similar style pizza to that, like almost to a T, phenomenal. I think that my doctor has told me this, that the gluten is processed differently in Europe than it is in America.
It is.
And I think that may be what I'm sensing, because obviously I'm eating carbs for every meal.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's why it tastes different to me, or I don't know, but it doesn't feel as like intense as America or something. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it.
That is a real thing without getting too scientific, because I love this topic.
The food science.
I love the food science topic. The gist of it basically is that the land, the soil, the agriculture in Europe largely is just less corrupted than ours is in America. Our soil is much more depleted of nutrients compared to theirs, and some of our farming practices and our food production practices aren't as sustainable or agriculturally ethical, if you want to say that, as Italy's, but or just most of Europe. But basically what you're experiencing is flour that was ground from wheat that wasn't genetically modified or as processed as that same ingredient would be here in the States. So not only are you eating something that's probably better for you, eating a carb here is not as healthy for you as it is there. It's also probably easier on your body. It's easier for your system to digest. And it's just probably also something that your body recognizes, like, oh, I know what this is. Whereas something that's been tampered with, so many times, your body has a harder time.
Yeah, I feel that, because obviously, as you all know, I've had my ups and downs with food over the past few years. And like, I'm not saying every day has been perfect, because it hasn't, but that's just, my bodily system. But overall, I have been feeling a lot better in the general sense, which is really good. I think it was interesting to try the one pizza that was very, very similar to Via Napoli. And silly me, I was like, oh, this just must be what pizza is in Italy, like in general. No, there are so many types of pizza, depending on where you go. So like we went to a very, very, very local Italian restaurant that's near our Airbnb, and like nobody spoke English. It was all locals. It was
that's awesome.
Amazing. Love that kind of place. But their pizza was kind of on a crunchier crust, and I got a 4-cheese pizza. It was really good, but
quattro formaggi.
Exactly. But yeah, so that was on a very like crunchier flat pizza crust, which was very different from the other one. And then I went to another place by Trevi Fountain called Piccolo Buco. Write that down, because that pizza blew my mind. But it's kind of funny because it's sort of the look of it, not like the actual taste, but the look of it kind of reminded me of a Disney World pizza, like the little circle ones, but the crust was thicker and fresher.
Like the Pizzafari pizza?
Like Pizzafari pizza, the look of it, not the taste or the texture, but the look. Like that thick outer crust and then a sunken in middle. Yeah. And they had I got margaritas. They got.
Oh, I saw a picture of that. And I think
Yes,
I thought
you
the
did.
same thing, but I also thought, wow, that looks so good.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. And then I'm just going to give you my other rec because I'm a pizza fiend over here, but Farini in Venice was also my favorite.
I was going to say, Jess, you're going to need to throw these in the show notes.
I'm going to put them in the show notes for all of you future Italy travelers.
Because one day I'm going to show up.
Yeah, Kristen, you're going to have all the notes and
get in, Jess. We're going to get pizza. And by get in, I'm going to throw you on the back of my Vespa. We're going to take off for Flavor Town.
Oh, it's just so good. But anyways, so then, yeah, continuing on the carbs train, pasta is very obviously your other main meal, but actually, so pasta here, is usually served as like a first course meal, and then a meat dish is served as your second course meal.
As if there weren't enough reasons to love Italians.
Literally. So honestly, being American, we're like very overwhelmed by that concept. So we usually get pasta as our main meal. But
it's fine. It's a lot.
It's fine. I mean, it's so filling. It's huge. But yeah, actually, I mean, the portion sizes look small when you first get them, but they are so rich and densely flavorful and packed with meats, cheeses, olive oil, whatever, vegetables.
Give me all of it. I'm glad to hear you're eating some vegetables.
Don't worry. I have green beans in my fridge right now.
Thank God.
I just don't take, guys, also remember, Instagram is not reality. I do actually eat vegetables and like sleep sometimes and do laundry.
Yeah.
I just don't post about it.
It's okay. We don't need to know.
Okay. Just wanted to give a reality check.
Yeah.
But anyways, the other thing about pasta, aside from restaurants, is that every grocery store you go in, Kristen, you're going to have a heyday at these grocery stores.
I'm so excited. That's so weird. I love going to grocery stores that are local when I travel places. It's my favorite thing.
You're going to love it. You need to just factor in time to just grocery shop and cook. But like, you go to these grocery stores and you go to like the fridge section and there are just tortellinis, ravioli, gnocchi, like all of this refrigerated pasta that is really, really fresh, really, really good. And you can just take your pick, get your sauce, bring it home. And that's what we do most days. We just have this delicious pasta and it tastes different than in the States. It tastes fresher. It tastes like, I know the taste, but I don't know how to put it into words. You know what I mean? So, there's something about the pasta and don't know if like how I'm ever going to have pasta again without like always missing this. 'Cause it's so, so delicious. But yeah.
Do you know the 4 Roman pastas?
I don't think I do. I mean, I probably do, but I didn't know there was a category.
So Rome is known for these 4 pastas. I'm sure you've eaten some of them.
Okay.
Carbonara is one of them.
Yep, had that.
Cacio e pepe, I'm sure you've had.
I actually haven't, but I'm going to get it this week.
Oh, you would love it. I call cacio e pepe the grown-up mac and cheese because it's literally pasta, pecorino, black pepper, and sometimes there's garlic involved, but not traditionally.
I'm here to, gather the research.
Researching. So the other 2 are, let's see, what did I say? Carbonara,
cacio e
pepe, something called gricia, and the last one is amatriciana, which I think you've had as well.
That was the first one I had.
Aww.
My favorite.
Yeah. Pasta alla gricia is cool. It's kind of carbonara-ish. It's kind of cacio e pepe-ish. It's honestly like cacio e pepe plus guanciale is in it, which is like the authentic version of pancetta. So here, if I went to Via Napoli and I found any of these pastas, it would probably have pancetta in it just because guanciale is harder to get. But guanciale is that thing that you're tasting in those pastas. It's like really flavorful and like kind of like meaty and salty and like intense. it's a much more powerful flavor than pancetta is, but we just don't really have it in the States. Well, we have to talk about drinks and we have to talk about desserts. But before we get into that, I have a very important question. And that is, if you could only choose one, would you choose pizza or pasta?
That's literally torturous to ask.
Sorry. I have an answer.
I mean, versatility wise would be pasta, but my personal choice would be pizza because I just love pizza. But that's really hard. We should poll the audience on Instagram.
Yeah, I think we have to know. I would choose pasta.
Which is fair because part of me wants to choose pasta.
I just find like there's something very comforting about like a bowl of pasta to me. It doesn't matter what, like there's only a couple noodle shapes I'm not down with. So I'm very, very open with the pasta. However, it's a really hard question, I know. So we can move on. Let's talk dessert. Now, in Italy at EPCOT, since we're using that as our sort of like reference point, the most notable desserts, I think, are the tiramisu at Via Napoli and the gelato at the new gelateria on the outside of the pavilion when you walk kind of towards the American Adventure. And both are delicious. It's not the best gelato I've ever had, but if we're going to talk about the best gelato ever, I should probably ask you because you've been eating a lot of it lately.
So I would say that your two most significant desserts that you are aware of in the Italy pavilion is accurate to actual Italy because those are the two most significant desserts here. Tiramisu is on every menu and gelato places are on every corner. So I would say overall, the tiramisu is delicious. Sometimes I've been served it in a mug. Sometimes it's served as a square. Sometimes, who knows? It could be anything, but that is really, really fresh. And I don't know. I haven't had tiramisu a lot in the States. I'm not going to lie. To me, having it here is like delectable and divine.
Yeah.
And the cream is so good. Gelato, I've learned so much about gelato being here, but my cousin was telling me you want to make sure you're going to the gelato places that have more of a flat top, because if you go to the ones with the big mounds of gelato, those are the more like sugary ones that aren't as authentic.
They're like the touristy trap.
Yeah. Well, they get you. They catch your eye. They look beautiful. They'll they'll drizzle cherry on top or Nutella. And have I fallen for that? Yes, I have.
That's okay.
Have I also had, the authentic gelato? Absolutely. And the other thing about that too, I was reading is that the temperature kind of gets a little bit misconstrued with the mounds of gelato just because it's not, level. So especially in the summer, you want to just kind of go for the more authentic one. There's a gelato place right down the street, unlike anything I've ever had before. There's this one flavor that tastes like an actual apple. Like not like an apple flavoring, but like an apple.
Bit into an apple. That's cool.
Yeah, it's like creepy how good it tastes. But I mean, you're gonna have like that's the thing is there's so many gelato places and there are so many flavors that are just so unique. Like there's like a biscotti flavor there's lots of Nutella and hazelnut, lots of pistachio, which are my two favorites. There's fruity ones, there's cream ones. The original flavor was apparently like a cream and lemon type flavor, which I thought was interesting. But
you love a lemon moment.
I love a dessert. We all know this.
Yeah, I know. I will say, like, as I've gotten older, I've said this before, but my sweet tooth has just not really followed me into adulthood, which is kind of weird to navigate because I don't like want dessert anymore. It's weird, but I will say that gelato to me, like good gelato is not so sweet. And depending on the flavor, of course, I love chocolate anything. I find that is a dessert that I do crave, but B, also something that doesn't leave me feeling like gross or sluggish or overly full, because generally the portion sizes of gelato are also less like aggressive than like some crazy American ice cream sundae or something. So it's sort of just something sweet, something slightly sweet to finish off your meal. I am very down for anything like that. So I'm glad that Epcot is representing the desserts authentically, but I cannot wait for the day that I can have true gelato in Rome. We all know that wine is something near and dear to my heart. And there is so much of it in Italy. Italy is, I mean, second maybe to France in the global wine scene. We need to talk about wine. We need to talk about what you've been loving, what you've been trying, where you've been getting it. And then we also need to talk about the spritz.
Got to talk about both.
So you start, you go wherever you want to go first.
All right, let's start with wine because that's what you introduced first. So the wine here is also very different in the sense of I drink it all the time and my hangovers are very they're just, I just have less of a hangover in general, because in America, I don't know why, but I'm like, I get hungover very easily from wine. So here it's like incredible.
If you're drinking, are you drinking Italian wine in America?
Probably not.
Okay.
Why, why be cultured?
Right. No, because I was going to say that's kind of weird because it's not like something happened.
Oh, no. Like, I'm sure I'm drinking. I think I'm drinking like, whatever the cheapest one is at the grocery store. Not the cheapest.
Okay.
The thing is here that the, wine at the grocery store is €2 or €3. Like,
yeah, that's just wild.
Maybe 5 or 6 if you want to splurge. It's all from the grocery store. We're just having so much fun with this grocery store. I don't even know.
I love it.
It's very, very, very common to get a bottle of wine with your dinners or lunches. I've seen people drink it at 11 a.m., 10 a.m. We went into this cafe once and this little old man was in there with a full glass of red wine and he chugged it in about 30 seconds and left it on the table and left. It was iconic.
No,
it's funny, but yeah, everyone's always just sitting outside on these outdoor like patio tables drinking wine. And I think like you were talking about the culture, like I think that is just such a fun part of this. It's not like people are constantly like drinking to get drunk here. They are just drinking to enjoy the flavors and enjoy the experience of the wine and trying something new from one of the different areas all around Italy.
Do you have a favorite?
I don't know. I don't have a favorite at the moment because I love them all. I mean, there was this one bottle of red we got at our local restaurant called Chiacco. That was our favorite so far, but I don't know what it was called.
What was
probably the picture?
You gotta start taking pictures of wine labels for me, girl.
I got them. You
gotta take pictures of wine labels so I can try and find these wines in the US.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because like we could potentially have them, and there are stores like Italian markets. The most notable one, obviously, being Italy in some of the bigger cities in the US that do, pretty authentically adhere to Italy is my girl.
Thank God that exists.
Italy is my church. It's my sacred space of healing and renewal. I am obsessed.
And then the other main drink is spritz.
But what spritz? Because there are a lot of different spritzes.
So there are a lot of different spritzes, and I learned a lot about this. So the main spritz that you see around here is an Aperol spritz. Now, the first one I had was repulsive, and I think it was just a really bad one because I don't know if it was just straight Aperol and like a little bit of the spritz. So the spritz is Prosecco. We went to Venice and Steven got a new Aperol spritz, and that was much better. And he liked it. So he got quite a few. I guess, It's not my drink of choice. I was scarred from my first one.
I should have warned you about that because here's the thing about Aperol and Campari and the Italian digestifs, aperitifs. They're all bitter. That's kind of the point. The whole point is like it helps with your digestion. Whether it does or not is neither here nor there. You have to really like that like bitter flavor. And I know you're not a bitter flavors person because you're
I'm a
definitely
sweet gal.
Yeah, you're not a black coffee person. I love an Aperol spritz because I like the bitterness. But what I love more than an Aperol spritz is a Campari spritz, which is even more bitter. And it sort of is like an Aperol spritz meets a Negroni. Don't have a Negroni, Jess. You won't like it.
Thank you. I think that was my favorite. My food tour guide's favorite spritz, I think, was the one you mentioned.
The Campari spritz. Yeah, I'm literally looking at a bottle of Campari on my little bar cart over here. Right now.
I love it. Yeah, and the best spritz that we've had, in my opinion, has been the limoncello spritz. And just limoncello as itself, you are often given that. In Florence, my cousin introduced us to getting limoncello spritz as a drink, which a lot of places are not aware of and don't do, which we learned when we left Florence and went to Venice and tried to order one. They were like, what are you talking about? We found some in Venice, but you kind of have to ask and they look a little confused. So it's not as easy to find. But that felt like a very nice, like summer day cocktail sitting outside, just sipping something really refreshing. And that is my favorite non-wine drink in Italy for sure. Well, you can probably make it. I mean, it's just Prosecco limoncello, so try it. Yeah.
That Italian margarita that you and I love from the Italy pavilion it's limoncello and tequila, and I think probably some agave. One of my favorite classic cocktails is a French 75, which is lemon, gin, and usually champagne. So it's kind of that same concept. You have like something a little like herbal floral, something a little tart, something a little sweet, and then all of that together makes a really refreshing summertime drink. Yeah. All in all, I think that what we've got here at EPCOT seems to be a pretty darn good replica of what you're experiencing in Italy, which is awesome because it makes me feel closer to you. And it also just makes me happy that if I can't be in actual Italy, we have something really incredible right here to enjoy. And all of the food, all of the wine, all of the sweet treats, we're all living vicariously through you with all of that. And I feel inspired to make some pasta. I don't know about all of you, but this episode has definitely made me hungry. But I think just to kind of put a bow on everything, as far as just the discrepancies between what you are used to as an American living in Italy, the language barrier and just different habits that people have there, is there anything that you've noticed that has made you feel at home or feel homesick or feel really comfortable or feel like, oh, that's kind of weird? We definitely don't do that. What's been your experience overall?
Yeah, I think just a few things to note language wise. It very much depends on where you are. So Florence, particularly, there's a lot of study abroad students there and it's quite touristy. So there are a lot of people who are locals who work in the restaurants who speak English and Italian. But then in Rome, like where our Airbnb is, we're very much in a local area. So I went to the post office the other day and not a soul spoke English.
Oh, no.
It was really sweet because there was this girl in there who was a student and she heard me kind of struggling a little bit and she walked up and helped me speak to the clerk. And that was really, really nice. So everyone's really kind. And if a lot of times if you see students, they are going to like hop to it and help you. But I think my major thing would be to definitely have a translator app, no matter where you are in Italy. Also, the other thing to note about Italy is that it is part of Europe, which is very close to a lot of other countries. So you're not only going to have Italian and English, you're going to have French, you're going to have German, you're going to have all of these different languages depending on where people are from. So, not everybody can speak every language. So you have to just anticipate not being able to communicate in your home language and figure out, the best way to communicate with your translator app or doing a lot of like hand motions and kind of like playing charades a little bit to like express what you need. Like, what time is it? Like tapping on your wrist or pointing to something on a menu and just being very expressive. So I think that's really helpful. And then just some other things that I've noticed in general, I guess, like one major thing is they don't really do like breakfast here. It's very much croissants or sweet treats for breakfast. And then I would say like the other main trends I've noticed is like we were talking about, like eating and drinking is an event, but there's a lot of like routines that I've noticed. Everybody in the morning is always having their croissant and their coffee, espresso, whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of just like whatever. But then dinner, you eat very, very late. A lot of places don't open till 6:30, 7:30, 8 at night. Like
really?
we went to a pizza place the other night at like 7 and they were sitting down to eat and they're like, come back in 45 minutes. And we were like,
oh my gosh. Can you imagine? That would not happen here.
Yeah. Not at all. Yeah. So I think America has a lot of convenience with things being open all the time. Like that's an expectation of Americans. So like, when you're here, you really have to be flexible and be like, okay, like I'm just going to go with the flow. And everyone's always smoking cigarettes too, which I don't do, but that's definitely a European thing, but it's everywhere here. So it's just something to be aware of. It's kind of like I'm plopped in a storybook or like an alternate reality where it's just like all of these moving pieces are around me and people are speaking to each other or, you know, in general, and they're just like speaking. You don't know what's going on, but you kind of notice from the tone of their voice, like if they're happy or annoyed, or like I've heard a guy singing out my window. There's people whistling on the streets.
Wow.
Like, very picturesque. And the best part is when I was at the post office, this was a very dramatic morning. It was a very long line and people were huffy. But this lady next to me literally said, "Mamma mia." And I was like, oh my God. They really say "Mamma mia" like as an expression. So
that's cute.
Anyway, that's
actually important information. I needed to know that. That's adorable.
Very important to know. Yeah.
That's adorable.
Also, I need to do that. I need to shout this out really quick. There is a girl that I follow on TikTok/Instagram. I don't know if you follow her, Kristen, Casey Rose.
I don't, but do I need to?
Oh, you absolutely need to.
Going right now.
Do it right now. You're going to be obsessed. She is an American who moved to Italy to be with her boyfriend, and she posts TikToks and Instagram posts about living in Italy and her perception as an American living there. So many helpful hints, like the water fountains that have fresh water all throughout Rome. I never would have known you could drink out of those, but she posted a video about it and I was like, oh my God. And now I refill my water bottle at those all the time. And it's fresh, clean water that tastes better than the water fountain water at Disney World. So
I would hope so. In light of
really exciting
the end of this episode, would you like to tell us where you're off to next, Jess?
Yes. Drum roll.
We already proved earlier in the episode that I cannot do a good drum roll. So
we're continuing our nomad life of, renting our Airbnbs for a month at a time. And our next one is actually in Paris, France. I'm
so excited. I'm so excited for you. I have so enjoyed coming along with you from this
Thank you for being here.
Several weeks in Italy. And I'm sure you all have too. If you guys are not following Jess and Steven, they are at Jessica Faye 508 and at Steven Meets World. Is there an underscore or anything in Steven's, or is it just at Steven
He's
Meets
just
World?
got a clean cut name.
All right. At Steven Meets World. And they are continuing their European adventure in Paris. And I am so excited to see not only Paris through your eyes, but all of the holiday magic that surely will be coming to Paris as you are arriving. And I just cannot wait to see it. So on that note, everyone, do yourselves a favor. Depending what time of day you're listening, get yourself an espresso or uncork a good bottle of wine and make some pasta. Sit and savor a meal while you're listening to this episode. And
savor is the word for Italy.
Yes.
Just savor every moment, every bite, everything.
And thank you so much for coming to Italy. Thank you, Jess. Thank you for bringing us to Italy with you. And thank you everyone
for coming with me.
Oh, I wish we could all be there with you, but we are there in spirit.
Too.
And we are so excited for where your journey is taking you next. So on that note,
yes. Ciao. Arrivederci.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of ReDIScover.
Please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening. Your reviews are what keep us going, and we'd love to hear from you.
Join us every Tuesday for a new conversation, and let us know what you think we should talk about next.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.kristen and at jessicafay508. And check out Jess's blog at theroadjesstraveled with 1l.com.
Until next time,
stay frumpy.